Welcome to day one of Perfect English Fixing Common Errors. Today we're going to meet our good friend Roberto, whose English is very good, but he makes some mistakes here and there, and I'm going to help him fix those mistakes. Those mistakes are not bad, but they're just common mistakes every English learner can make. So let's meet our friend Roberto and find out about his day. Hi Roberto, tell us about your day.
Hi, everybody. Well, today was full of events. First I had that job appointment. It didn't go well. I was nervous during the appointment, and I'm sure they'll give the job to someone else. The HR person was comprehensive, though. She seemed to sympathize with me, but I was so bad. I know it. Then I walked back home in the noon. On the way, next to a place that sells fruits and vegetables, I stopped a thief who was trying to steal a wallet from a man. I grabbed the wallet and tried to grab the thief as well, but he escaped. The wallet was containing credit cards, ID, and some cash. Poor man, he was very lucky I was in the neighborhood. I alarmed the police about the incident and continued my way home. They should take stronger measurements against criminals, I think. At home, I relaxed for several hours before dinner. You know how much I love dinner. It's my favorite dish of the day. I had my dinner and I tried to forget about the bad job appointment. Then I went for a walk as it is my habit to do so. I like to keep on my fitness program. It keeps me in a good mood. And that was all about my day.
Thank you, Roberto. Now, Roberto's English was almost perfect. He's made a few mistakes, but not to worry, we're here to help. To help Roberto correct his common mistakes, we'll focus on the following 10 keywords today: appointment, comprehensive, noon, fruit, contain, alarm, measurement, several, dish, and keep on. So let's start with the first keyword, appointment. Appointment means an arrangement that you have made to see a doctor, dentist, business person, etc. at a particular time. So if you go on and say, I was very nervous during the appointment and I'm sure they'll give the job to someone else, here appointment is not exactly the word we want to use. The word we want to use in this case is interview, because interview means a formal meeting at which people ask you questions to see if you are suitable for a particular job or a course of study, etc. So here we should say, I was very nervous during the interview, and I'm sure they'll give the job to someone else. We'll look at another example where we use appointment in a wrong way. I had an appointment with Takumi, a friend of mine. Now, the problem here is that appointment is something we make to see a doctor, principal, business person. It is a formal thing. It is not something we say when we want to meet a friend. In this case, we should say arrange to meet. So I should say in this case, instead of I had an appointment with Takumi, a friend of mine, I should say I had arranged to meet Takumi, a friend of mine. Or if it is a romantic thing, we can say a date. But in this case, we'll just say that Takumi is just a friend. So I had arranged to meet Takumi, a friend of mine. Now if we go back to what Roberto said, first I had that job appointment. It didn't go well. Now we know that Roberto means interview instead of appointment. So he should say first I had that job interview. It didn't go well. Now let's move to the next keyword, which is comprehensive. I will start with an example where comprehensive is used in a wrong way. The teachers are very kind and comprehensive. Now from the context of the sentence, we understand that what we mean by comprehensive here is to describe somebody who's feeling sympathy for someone. But this is not the word you want to use. The word you want here is understanding. Comprehensive means something else. Comprehensive means including everything or almost everything. Like when we say the witness provided a comprehensive account of the accident, including everything. But if you want to talk about sympathy or about a person who shows sympathy for someone else, the word to use is understanding. People easily make this mistake because comprehensive comes from the word comprehend, which means to understand. So we understand why people make this mistake. And let's go back to Roberto and see what he said about the HR person. He said the HR person was comprehensive, though she seemed to sympathize with me. So this is exactly the meaning of understanding. So he should say, the HR person was understanding, though she seemed to sympathize with me. Now let's move to the third keyword, which is noon. People easily make this mistake because when they think about noon, they think it's something like morning or evening. So they say in the morning, in the evening, in the noon. But this is not exactly the case. Noon is exactly 12 o'clock. So it is a time, actually. When we say noon, we mean exactly 12 o'clock p.m. So when we want to use it, if you go with this sentence and say the cafeteria is always crowded in the noon, we're making the mistake here of using the wrong preposition. We should say the cafeteria is always crowded at noon because that is an exact time. And going back to what Roberto said, he said, then I walked back home in the noon. And now we know that he should say, then I walked back home at noon. And now for the next keyword, fruit. Let's take a look at the sentence. The shop sells fruits and vegetables. Now, it might be logical to use fruits and vegetables because these are plural and we have many kinds. Vegetables can be used when we want to describe vegetables in general, but when we want to talk about fruit in general, we use fruit and not fruits. So, fruit in general is an uncountable noun. We say we eat lots of fruit in our family. Would you care for a piece of fruit? We don't say exactly which fruit, it's just in general. So in this case, we should say the shop sells fruit and vegetables. And this is exactly the same mistake Roberto made when he said on the way next to a place that sells fruits and vegetables. Now we know that he means fruits in general, so he should say fruit. He should say on the way next to a place that sells fruit and vegetables. Now for the next key word, which is contain. Let's take a look at this sentence. The wallet was containing about $25. Now the problem here is that contain is not an action verb. Contain is a stative verb. It describes a state. So something either contains or it doesn't contain. There's nothing in between. It's not an action like going when you say I go from this place to that place and in between I am actually going because it's an ongoing action. This verb is a stative verb like many other stative verbs. It is a state. It's either yes or no. There's nothing in between. So in this case, we should say the wallet contained about $25 and not was containing. We can't use it in the progressive tense. And this is exactly what Roberto did when he said the wallet was containing credit cards, ID, and some cash. In this case, of course, Roberto should say the wallet contained credit cards, ID, and some cash. Now for the next key word, which is alarm. Let's take a look at this example. Finally, we got really worried and alarmed the local police. Now, the word alarm here might sound okay because that's what we want to do, right? We want to tell the police that there is some danger. So we alarm them. But alarm actually means something else. Alarm means to make someone feel worried about a possible danger. Like when we say we don't wish to alarm people unnecessarily, but it would be wise to avoid drinking the tap water here. This is to alarm, but to alert is to inform someone of possible danger so that they can be ready to deal with it. And this is exactly what we want to say here. We want to alert the local police. We should say finally we got really worried and alerted the local police, not alarm. And Roberto made the same mistake here when he said, I alarmed the police about the incident and continued my way home. He should have said, I alerted the police about the incident and continued my way home. Now for the next key word, measurement. Let's take a look at this example. In my opinion, the authorities have to take even stricter measurements to save our archaeological treasures. Now, here the word we need actually is measures, not measurements. Because measurement, we're talking about the length, the width of something. Like when we say, you can't buy new curtains without knowing the window measurements. Of course, we need to know the length, the width, etc. But measure is something else. Measure is an action intended to have a particular effect, a law or ruling. Like when we say, new measures are to be introduced in the fight against crime. So this is what we needed to use here. We needed to say, in my opinion, the authorities have to take even stricter measures to save our archaeological treasures. And this is another word where Roberto was wrong. When he say, they should take stronger measurements against criminals. And actually what he means to say, they should take stronger measures against criminals. Now let's move to the next key word, several. Let's take a look at this example. The phrase "the role of women" appeared just several years ago. There is something wrong about the use of several here because several means some but not many. Like when we say chicken will keep for several days in a refrigerator. So it has a very specific meaning. When you want to talk about a very small number, use a few instead. Like when we say, he was here just a few minutes ago, so he can't be far away. And this is what we want to say here about the role of women. So instead of saying the role of women appeared just several years ago, we should say the phrase "the role of women" appeared just a few years ago. Let's take a look at another example. Try to forget your work for several hours and relax. Well, this is kind of weird. Nobody says forget about something for several hours. We can say a few hours because a few hours simply means a small number, a very small number of something. So here when we say try to forget your work for several hours, that sounds strange and awkward. We should say try to forget your work for a few hours and relax. And this is similar to what Roberto said. He said I relaxed for several hours before dinner. He should say I relaxed for a few hours before dinner. Now let's move to the next keyword, dish. Let's take a look at this example. Dinner usually consists of 3 dishes. The problem is that a lot of people confuse the word dish with plate and course or meal. So I'll talk now about the difference between these 4 words. The first word is meal. A meal is the food that you eat at about the same time each day. So that is true about dinner, lunch, breakfast, or any other snacks you might have. These are meals. Now the next word is course. Course is different because it is a part of a meal. So a meal can be served in separate stages. Each stage is called a course. The courses we're talking about, side dishes or appetizers, then the main course, and then dessert. These are courses in one meal. Now we come to the word dish. A dish is food prepared in a particular way and served as a meal or part of a meal. So like when we say my favorite Italian dish is lasagna. This is a dish. This is a specific kind of food that is prepared in a particular way. And that is different from what we wanted to say here. And of course, the last word we want to compare these 3 words to is plate. Plate is actually the flat object that food is placed on. So we'll go back to our sentence. We said dinner usually consists of 3 dishes. And now we know that it is not exactly dishes. We mean courses, 3 courses. Let's take another example. The main dish was roast beef with fresh vegetables. Now, that is not exactly the dish. Now we know that this is the main course. The main course was roast beef with fresh vegetables because the course is just a part of a meal, which is dinner, lunch, etc. Let's take another example here where we say some children have to prepare their own dishes. Now, it is not exactly what we mean because we don't want the children to prepare specific dishes like pizza or lasagna. We want them to prepare their own meals, to prepare their own breakfasts, lunches, dinners. So that is not the word we want to say. We want to say some children have to prepare their own meals. Now let's look at another example. Dinner is the main dish of the day. Now we know that dinner is not actually a dish. Dinner is a meal. So we should say dinner is the main meal of the day. Now let's go back to what Roberto said about this. He said, you know how much I love dinner. It's my favorite dish of the day. So he made the same mistake. He should say, you know how much I love dinner. It's my favorite meal of the day. Now for the last key word for today, and that is keep on. Let's take a look at this example. He wants the new generation to keep on this tradition. It is obvious from the sentence that the meaning is to continue a tradition or a custom or a habit or relationship, etc., instead of letting it come to an end. This is exactly what the sentence is about. But keep on doesn't actually mean this. Keep on means simply to continue. So if I come and see you are doing something, I can say keep on doing it until you're done. It doesn't actually mean more than this. It doesn't actually continue a tradition. It's not bigger than this. The word you're looking for here is keep up. So when we want to say continue a tradition, a custom, a habit, you want to continue to use a particular skill, etc., we use keep up. So in this sentence, we want to say he wants the new generation to keep up this tradition. And Roberto made the same mistake. He said, I like to keep on my fitness program. And by saying keep on here, he meant I like to keep up my fitness program. I want to continue this habit. I want to continue to use a particular skill. So he should say, I like to keep up my fitness program. Now to recap, we have picked and corrected the following 10 mistakes in what Roberto said. Instead of saying, I had that job appointment, he should say, I had that job interview. Instead of saying the HR person was comprehensive though, he should say the HR person was understanding. Instead of saying, then I walked back home in the noon, he should say, then I walked back home at noon. Instead of saying, on the way next to a place that sells fruits and vegetables, he should say that sells fruit and vegetables. Instead of saying the wallet was containing credit cards, ID, etc., he should say the wallet contained credit cards, ID, and some cash. Instead of saying I alarmed the police about the incident, he should say I alerted the police about the incident. Instead of saying they should take stronger measurements against criminals, he should say they should take stronger measures against criminals. And instead of saying I relaxed for several hours, he should say I relaxed for a few hours. And instead of saying it's my favorite dish of the day when he talked about dinner, he should say it's my favorite meal of the day. And the last one, he said, I like to keep on my fitness program, where he should have said, I like to keep up my fitness program. Now, before we are done with the lesson, let's hear it from Roberto, but this time in perfect English, after he has learned about his mistakes and he has corrected them. Hi, Roberto. Can you tell us again about your day?
Thank you for pointing out the mistakes that I made earlier. So I'll go again, only this time in perfect English. Today was full of events. First I had that job interview. It didn't go well. I was nervous during the interview, and I'm sure they'll give the job to someone else. The HR person was understanding, though. She seemed to sympathize with me, but I was so bad, I know it. Then I walked back home at noon. On the way next to a place that sells fruit and vegetables, I stopped a thief who was trying to steal a wallet from a man. I grabbed the wallet and tried to grab the thief as well, but he escaped. The wallet contained credit cards, ID, and some cash. Poor man, he was very lucky I was in the neighborhood. I alerted the police about the incident and continued my way home. They should take stronger measures against criminals, I think. At home, I relaxed for a few hours before dinner. You know how much I love dinner. It's my favorite meal of the day. I had my dinner and I tried to forget about the bad job interview. Then I went for a walk, as it is my habit to do so. I like to keep up my fitness program. It keeps me in a good mood. And that was all about my day.
Thank you, Roberto. I hope you have learned new things today, and I'm pretty sure that your English is a step closer to perfect English. Remember, if you want to get the most of this course, you should take a new lesson every day. Now you are ready to take the quiz to check your understanding of the common errors we talked about today, and my advice is to take the quiz right away to check your understanding and to take the quiz again tomorrow before you start with the new lesson to consolidate your information. If you have any questions about anything you didn't understand in the lesson, please leave me a question in the Q&A section and I will answer all your questions. That's all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow.